All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our Church Windows webinar, coffee break, quick class for handling or dealing with duplicate givers in Church Windows donations. At least that's where we're going to be sort of focusing our attention is on the donations module because that's where we see it most often. My name is Joshua, and I'm going to be your presenter today. We're going to work for about the next 20 minutes or so. I think my computer clock is a little bit slow there, so it may appear on my CPU like I'm starting a little bit early, but I think we're actually right on time at 2 p.m. Eastern time here. Again, we're going to work for 20 minutes. Wherever I am, I'm going to stop. We know you've taken out time out of your day today to spend with us, so we thank you so much for that, and we hope that the event today is going to prove to be helpful. We're going to be working with Church Windows version 17 today, not version 16 or earlier. Essentially the same steps that we're going to be walking through today, you'll be able to follow even if you are working with the older version. So there's really no difference between what we're doing here today and what we're going to be doing if you're at version 16 too. It's virtually identical. It's just how you access the membership database that may look a little different. But hopefully everybody's on version 17. If you've never attended a webinar before and you're, say, using a single monitor, click the little red arrow at the top left of the control panel for the webinar. That will minimize the control pane for you and get it out of your way. You'll see more of the presentation by doing so, or if you've got a dual monitor set up, just go ahead and drag that off to the second desktop there just to get it out of your way. Ross is going to be answering questions for me today. If you have questions, we keep everybody muted for the events. We do that deliberately. If you have questions, please type those in the questions portion of the webinar. Ross will get to those as quickly as humanly possible. He's very proficient in donations, and he'll be glad to answer questions as soon as possible. He may ask you to contact support with questions if you have a question, not because he doesn't want to answer it, but generally it's because we need more information. Maybe there's something unique about your setup or your database, and so we generally need to speak with you personally in order to answer those. All right, so with just about 19 minutes left here, or 18 minutes, let's go ahead and dive into our topic at hand. So, the motivation for today's webinar is as a result of a common support call that we get most commonly. I mean, this is a very, very common issue that we're dealing with today. Okay, we've got two or more individuals or households in the database that are essentially representing what should be just one. Okay, and this happens a lot. Honestly, like I said, it's one of our most common support calls, and so this webinar is set up and constructed in such a way that it's set up in such a way that it hopefully helps you resolve the problem if you seem to have this situation occur for you. Probably many of you do, and that's why you're here today. So if we are here in, say, our Manage Givers window, it would occur that way if we were to go into, say, Enter Donations. The same problem would reveal itself there. Let's say if I were going ahead and entering my last Sunday's batch, and I type in Kildare. Notice here we've got 3 different records for James Kildare with 3 different giver numbers. Oh, I'm getting a little ahead of myself again. The information that I'm using for today's webinar, folks, is taken directly from the blog page at our website. So if you open up churchwindows.com and we go down the left side to blog, support blog here, and I click in, say, the keyword duplicate, and I hit enter or search. Right here it says handling duplicate givers. When we open up this PDF file, just FYI for you, this is the exact same document I'm using for the presentation today. Okay, so this is here in just a printable format. You just have to go to the blog page to find it. Okay, so let's get back to that. So again, we go into something like Enter Donations, and we see 3 different records. Sometimes they have envelope numbers, sometimes they don't. But we essentially need to find out, 1, how did the giver records get entered more than once, and 2, what do we do about that, and which record or records do we want to keep? Okay, probably only one. Sometimes there's a giver number in play for the multiple records, sometimes there's not, okay? Well, certainly there's information here in the center of our, say, Manage Givers window here, or our Givers menu here at our Enter Donations. Like you notice it says giver type individual, individual, and donations individual. Okay, well that provides some information for us as to how the problem occurred or where the records are coming from. But the other place to check that and find that out is to go to our Manage Givers window here in the center. Let me introduce my highlighter friend here. Right here in the center, if we click under Manage Givers, get rid of my drawing here. And here, if again we stay on our Individual Givers tab, we click on the start typing Kildare again, we see those same 3 records for James Kildare. Okay? Well, once I choose one of the records, logic says that based on the last name information that technically those should be grouped all together, and if I'm not mistaken, they are. And as we can see clearly right here at the top of our Individual Givers tab here, we see one record for James with a giver number 13, one with 78, and one for 261. Okay? Well, you're thinking, well, are we sure we're seeing other information here, Josh, that might prove to be helpful? Well, yes, there is other information here that may help us indicate where the problem stemmed from. First of all, if we notice further down the list, now we don't have one in this particular scenario today, but we notice that we have the King and the Loy family that are appearing below James there that have a V after their last name. And even further down, Loose Offering, and as we go further down the list here, we would see more. Is that if they have a V after their name, then we know that that's a record that's being brought over, coming in from our visitors database in membership, okay? Well, what that tells us then about James's record here is that none of these records are coming over from visitors. The other thing that's here at this window that might be providing some insight for us would be this box here in the very center column called Donations Giver. Okay. Notice here for that one of those records, the one with 261, that envelope number or giver number 261 has the donations giver box checked. Okay, so what that's telling us is that this is a record that was entered or added for James that was entered strictly in our donations database and is not added to our membership, whether it's in visitors or members. Okay, we came in here at some point in the past, or somebody did, and they came into this Individual Givers and they clicked this plus sign right up here at the very top and essentially just added them to donations. You can do that now. You can add a record into donations and not enter it into your members database. Okay. The thing we want to try to make clear about this webinar today is we cannot at this particular point transfer a donations giver over to our membership database. All right, that's a very, very important distinction. So if there's any doubt as to whether the person or the family is going to be joining your church, just go ahead and add them into members in the visitors database. You can still transfer them over to members if they do wind up joining your church later. But rather, in order to avoid this kind of regular problem occurring, this problem occurring regularly, just go ahead and add them to visitors. Okay, don't add them as a donation giver and then decide later you're going to add them to visitors. I mean, you can, but you're just really making things probably more challenging and more difficult for yourself than absolutely necessary. Okay, so this tells us that there's a record in donations for James, and the other 2 records, again, without the V after their name, without the donations giver box checked, that both of those records, the first 2, the ones with 13 and 78, are records that are both reside for James in our members database in membership. Okay, so let's close out of donations. And really right now, other than, if like we click over under address information, 123 Wilcox Ave and 123 Wilcox Ave, how do we know which one of these records are the ones that we want to keep? Well, maybe the giver number might provide some information, maybe not. In either case, we probably would be well served to go over to our members database and look at the records that we have set up for James in membership. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to go into our membership database and into members. Again, no V after his name, so we know that both of these records are in membership. And then once we click on find, we're going to click on our mailing label field. This is just one of many ways to search in membership, of course. And then we're going to type in * Kildare *, asking for any household that has these exact combination of characters in there. It would help if I spelled the name correctly. Let's try that again. So Kildare. And here now we see both of the household records for James Kildare. Okay. And we need to examine both of these. So we would simply highlight the first one, click Go To right up here at the very top left. This takes us into the record. Here we can take a look around and see if the database, we do have a fair amount of information entered over here for James. Then we can just, we can say, okay, we've got, all of the birth date and the email information and confirmation date. This is a pretty complete record. It's household number 22. If we click on the little grid icon up here at the very top, right up here, that's now appeared. Okay, we can click on that. That takes us back to our place that was in the grid. Simply click on the next record now for James and click Go To. Takes us in. Oh, definitely a less complete record. Notice we don't have all of that birth date and confirmation date and email address and all that other stuff that we had on the other record. In addition to that, the household number that we're looking at is also number 38. So this record was definitely added later. So and over here, notice we see that the giver number on the upper right here is confirmed, matching those same giver numbers that we're seeing in our donations module. Okay, so if we go back to toggle back to our grid, go back to the other record again, and we click Go To, we clearly see the other one is 13. So my thinking is we're probably going to want to keep the one here, the older household record, the one with the lowest giver number record, the one that has all of the complete membership information. So we're looking at household number 22 with giver number 13. So that alone would tell us pretty much everything we need to know about which records we're wanting to work with and keep, and subsequently the other ones we want to get rid of in donations. However, what if we didn't have an envelope, or if we don't use giver numbers or envelope numbers? How do we then deal with that problem when all we're basing that information on is, say, name? Okay, some of you may not have or use giver numbers. Okay, if that's the case, then we have to become creative in terms of how else we troubleshoot the problem such as this. Okay, and so one of the ways that we have to do that, or one of the ways we suggest doing it, let me get rid of my other drawings here, is maybe go into one of the records here. Let's go back to our grid and say, okay, let's go back to 2038, the one we don't want, and then we're going to go up here to Kildare, and we're going to type in, say, an asterisk, okay, and save. And now, when we go over to donations, when we go into our manage givers, we should be able to now see one for James Kildare. Notice here that does have an asterisk on it. Okay, that tells us that that would be the other membership record that we don't want to keep. We can also go in here and enter one for the donations giver too, but again, we've got the checkbox here on the right side to tell us this. Okay, so we're simply finding a way of identifying the two different household records or the two different records in our database differently when the name is the same and perhaps even additional information like address is the same. Okay, so we now know clearly which one of the records we want to keep and which ones we want to get rid of. Okay, or which ones we want to terminate or deactivate as the case may be. Again, the giver numbers on the left-hand side would have provided us with more information about that or told us everything we needed to know once we determined which household we wanted to keep. Okay, but if you don't have envelope or giver numbers, you have to use something like the characters in the last name field. I mean, I used an asterisk. You could use X, Y, Z in the document that I've pointed you to at the blog page. We recommend using additional letters X, Y, and Z to separate those from others. Okay. All right, so now we know which records we're wanting to get rid of. There are other things that we have to consider when dealing with this. What if there's giving present? Okay, and I think in all of these situations there are. We want to keep giver number 13. Okay, so we have to check all of that. So we can go up to we're going to close out of our manage givers. We could go up to donations and browse here to check that if we wish. The other way to deal with it is to simply go to your givers and transfer donations. Okay, so here Very straightforward. Again, I can look at my date ranges. I can change the date range if I want. I can change it to virtually any period I wish by simply clicking Change Date Range. Okay, we're good with 15 for the time being. Under my From giver, this would be the giver I'm moving my giving from. I'm going to type in Kildare again. So here we know 13 is the one we're keeping, so that's not the From giver. So notice here we've got our, again, giver type individual, donation individual, individual. We're going to choose 261. Hey, and what do you know? Look at that. There is definitely giving that's been posted to that record over here for 261, the donations giver record for 2015, and a fair amount of it at that. Okay, so this is time well spent. So here we're going to come over to our to giver, and we can either type in 13 and choose change that way. And clearly we see the other giving that's been posted to his record for 2015. Simply notice all of our boxes are checked. We simply click transfer selected. It says this will reverse 5 donations and post them to James Kildare. Are you sure? Yes. Okay, so the new transaction numbers were created. All of the giving was moved over to the James Kildare record for 13. So now we can go up here and we can either again type in Kildare or in this case 78. And what do you know? That other record for the other membership record has one gift posted on January 25th. So same thing, I could go in and correct it. But why? When the transfer donations window allows me to do it quickly and easily. So same thing, we would simply go to transfer selected. And it says, are you sure you want to reverse? Again, same thing, click yes. One transaction was created, and there we go. All of the giving now is posted now to the one record for James that we want to keep and use. So, what we now know is that based on giving having been posted to these other duplicate records, it doesn't permit us to delete those records at this time. Okay, there may be something in future in another version of Church Windows in future that may allow us to purge or remove or delete records where there is no giving posted, but at this point that's not possible now. So what we can do is we can simply go into Manage Givers. Again, we can find Kildare either by number or name. We're going to choose 261, which is our donation giver, and then we can simply check the inactive terminated here. And then when we refresh, it takes out the one and puts it into the inactive list for that other number. Whoops, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So notice now there's only 2 there. So now if we go back to show inactive, we do have the James Kildare 261. What about these giver numbers? We have to consider removing those too if we want to assign them to somebody else. So how we do that then would be, there's a couple different ways. You can go right here into, say, Manage Givers, and we could do 261, and you could highlight it, and you can simply remove the giver number here. Okay, that's one option. Okay, the other option would be to go up to Givers and Manage Numbers, and if we type in and find, say, 78, I can highlight James here and I can enter an end date, say. I want to end that number, say, as of 12/31 of 14, or I can hit the minus sign here on the right side if I want to simply delete it entirely. But let's say we would just want to go ahead and end it as of, say, December 31st of 14. So he's now gone from the list, and we only have one James Kildare left in our current list of giver numbers, okay? So we've marked the donations giver record as inactive. We've freed up the other 2 giver numbers to assign to other members of our church or visitors to our church if in future. And then the final step would be to now then close out of our donations module, then jump over to membership and members. And this is again more to just kind of show you how this works here is if we choose James, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, it's the one with the asterisk. That's the one we want to get rid of. So here, just as an FYI, just to remind you and show you how this works, if I come in here and I go, okay, I want to delete, it says family cannot be deleted. The following individuals and donations have giving or pledging. So even though I have moved that giving, there might be a pledge in there for James that I have to clear out. Or perhaps there was giving in other prior years for this record that I have to. Or just simply the reversed transactions are a reason why the system won't permit us to remove or to delete that. So, as we would with any other record in membership, we would simply find like a reason for termination, And there's one duplicate record right here, just assigning that. We can enter today's date as the date that we are inactivating that record, and then simply save it to that record, and that one is now archived, and it shouldn't show up in our active database. So, folks, that is almost exactly 20 minutes. So we hope this has been helpful. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop what I'm talking about here. If you've got to, leave the webinar, by all means, we understand. Please go up to the File menu, choose Exit, Leave Webinar. Thank you so much. If you have to go, otherwise, I'm going to kind of poke around here and see and check the questions here to see. See what other questions perhaps we've got here. It looks like Ross maybe have gotten to those pretty well. Andrea is asking, will this webinar be offered again soon? I think there's one about dealing with, Andrea, in March that we've got scheduled for handling membership duplications specifically. If not, I think the intention is that we're ultimately going to get a recording of this particular event out and available on our website at some point soon. Please check that version 17, CW version 17 resources page. Keep checking it. I'm thinking this will be out there at some time. Greg is asking, is there a way to remove a deleted giver name record? It was deleted in the first name field. Again, Greg, if there was giving posted, there's not. What you'll have to do would be to come back into the membership record and find it, and then go ahead and key in the first name again. If there was no giving, it will allow us to delete it. But you really have to go in and try that and check and see. If you have the questions about that when you're at your computer, give us a holler. We're happy to work on it with you. David's asking, are there any updates that have been made since updating update 2? We're working on SR3. It'll be coming out sometime soon. We're testing it now, but definitely SR3. In the last step, you should remove the directory report order. Well, yeah, that's probably true, Cheryl. I mean, that's part of the maintenance I can come back in later on and deal with. In this record, there really isn't anything in this record. I don't know I'm not seeing a directory report order here. This is the one that I terminated, but, there is directory report order. Sure, I can remove that, but the terminated status kind of removes that from the active database automatically for us. So sure, you can go in and remove those if you wish. Yeah, definitely, by all means. If you want to do that, you may certainly do it. Belinda's asking, if you know that you have duplicate giving exists in prior years, would you or should you follow the same process for all those years? Well, yeah, I mean, the other option is on it, Belinda, is, yeah, we understand. Okay. Is that you could do that all under the transfer donations. You don't even have to, you could do the, if we go into, say, givers, transfer donations, change date range, I can set this date range back to 2000 if I want. And it'll show me the giving for that, or the records in question for that whole entire 15-year period if I wish. You could do multiple years at one time. Rachel's asking, so at this point there is no way to delete a record. There is no way to delete a record, Rachel, where giving is posted. Oh, sorry, Ross answered that. Yeah, if there's no giving, sure, you can go in and delete the record, but we always advise exerting caution when deleting any membership records whatsoever. Even if you're permitted, you never know what else you're going to be deleting. Any attendance history, groups and classes, anything else. Just be careful when you do that. Terminating or marking them as terminated deactivates them from the active database and archives them essentially. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. I'm hoping it's been helpful. Jackie, thank you. That's very nice. Nice of you to say. Yeah, we hope it's been helpful for you. Perhaps some folks are typing in some questions there. I'm not sure. Oh, good, Marty. Thank you. You're welcome, everyone. Thank you so much. It looks like folks are darting out pretty quickly. I'm not seeing any other questions coming in. Again, please visit the CW version 17 resources page for very similar, for recordings of lots of webinar events that help with lots of the new features in the version 17. And we hope to see you. Please check the website, the user group webinar page at our website for the list of March events that we're going to be getting out there soon. What if you have individual, Susan's asking, what if you have individual names for the same family listed by themselves? Well, that would indicate, Susan, that they're in different households. So assuming they're, again, not duplicated, you would just use the transfer individual function in membership to transfer people so they're in the same household. That's definitely something in membership that you can do. If you don't find it in the help file and you have questions, by all means, please give us a call. We're happy to help with that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar for everybody. Thank you so much. We're happy that you've attended, and we hope to see you at another future Church Windows webinar. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.